But in other words, to maintain our preeminence in the world in innovation, we began our innovation agenda tour of the country. We began in Silicon Valley, and when we ended our tours across the country.
So what's the point now? Because, you know, Silicon Valley has since, I don't know, 50, 30, 40, 50 years right now been that.
Yes,
been doing that. So what is the point of doing this?
Well, the point is to listen to the disruptors, to the entrepreneurs, to the educators, to see how we can come together in public-private partnerships, not in an idea that we have in our head, but from the innovative thinking that entrepreneurs have. And some of the planks that came out, the proposals that came out of the innovation agenda were from listening.
And some of them are quite obvious.
Some are quite obvious, but you have to make it a priority, and that was our commitment. Education K through 12, R&D, modernization, and made permanent R&D tax credits, issues that relate to the cost of energy, the cost of health care, and the rest. We established ARPA-E and all of that. That didn't exist before our innovation agenda, and now that's a facilitator for small businesses. We want to do more, of course. We had 22 planks. Of all of them, 21 became law. We passed much of it when we took the majority in the Competes Act. And then when President Obama became president, we were able to fund a great deal of it to the tunes of tens of billions of dollars. More than that even. And all of it, again, 22 planks, 21 passed. One didn't. Which is? Comprehensive immigration reform.
The thorn in the side of everybody.
It is something that we still have to do for our... So I'm optimistic.
What else were the entrepreneurs telling you the past, today, for example? What do they want? What are other things that they think is important? Is it the same stuff? More diversity?
The diversity was a beautiful part of the discussion because at least every other person, if not more, talked about needing diversity, whether it's women in the higher echelons or young girls taking STEM and STEAM, you know, STEM. A, add an A, that's the arts, that becomes STEAM. The diversity in terms of ethnic diversity, it's a source of our strength. And it's going to be essential to our preeminence.
Is that somewhere government has a role to push
Well, we do in terms of education. Innovation begins in the classroom. You
can't make people be diverse, right, in these tech companies, even though there's 70% men, mostly white.
Well, one of the participants today said that we should copy what some other countries do, which we require. I don't know that that would hold up here. You know, I just don't know that we could get that accomplished. But it's also about education. The workforce is about education. Innovation begins in the classroom. We have to have well-trained teachers. Part of the innovation agenda one was to have 100,000 more well-trained science teachers in a limited amount of time. We have to continue to do that. We can't have children learning something if the teachers aren't equipped to teach it. And of course, technology is, we had Salman Khan.
Is this something Congress has missed, do you think, in terms of the education, the technique? You know, you live here in San Francisco. You're representing, you and several others are representing most of where the innovation has come in this country. Has Congress missed that ability to get people in the right training in order to get these jobs? Because in tech, jobs that are available are in jobs, period, the ones that are available are all in tech. There's empty spaces all over the place.
Well, the K through 12, the basic education, and K through 3 to get children oriented that way, even earlier, early childhood education, the President's initiative for universal pre-K, all of that is important to get children prepared to learn. But it's really important to know that nothing decreases the budget. Nothing brings more money to the Treasury than the education of the American people, early childhood, K through 12, higher education, post-grad, lifetime learning. So again, in our budget debates is where some of this falls by the by, but that's what the American people have to know in a campaign. This is so obvious.
Should our education include coding at an early age?
Yes, indeed.
Because most other countries do have this.
Yes, absolutely. And the President has his Computer Science for All initiative.
Will that happen?
Well, we don't have that much more time. Barbara Lee and Anna Eshu, who are part of our meetings this morning, were optimistic about we are attracting more support. But that's the work you do. Is the more the public knows, the better the prospect for initiative of that kind.
Right. You've been Congressman since what, 1987, right?
1987.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a lot has changed here in your constituency.
Well, everything.
Everything.
But, that's, as I say of San Francisco, as they say of Paris, the more San Francisco changes, the more it is the same. It's innovative, it's diverse, it's disruptive.
Did you imagine it would get this techie now? That you'd be representing, a constituency where the greatest industry is tech with some of the greatest leaders?
Well, all of us represent the Bay Area,
right.
And the tech community is part of our constituency. I brought back, because even when we didn't have tech companies in San Francisco, we had venture capitalists in San Francisco. We had educators, UCSF and USF and the rest, who were geared toward the future.
Now they're here, the Salesforce Tower, the LinkedIn. I know, it's interesting.
It's wonderful to visit all of those places. In the earlier days, I have to say this, we would go back, our California delegation, every week to Washington, full of ideas about what we've seen, what the possibilities are, the innovation, the disruption, the exhilaration of it all. And you go to Washington, which is really a city of the status quo.
Yes, absolutely.
And it'd be like,
I had noticed that.
Yeah. Now, as I've said before, it's a city of the status quo, and on its best day, which is rare, the city of incrementalism. And so it
sounds like a fun place to live, which is polar opposite to here.
Right. Well, also, I mean, we had so many other things, the hotbed of environmental activity, the leader in the country on individual liberties,
food, culture.
Food, on the rest of that, and not to mention the sports, which they really resent.
Right.
Now you're talking major league resentment.
Gender issues, sex issues.
Well, all the civil liberties and personal privacy issues. We take pride in that.
Right.
And so people would say to me, in relationship to, for example, the LGBT issues, oh, it's easy for you because you're from San Francisco and people are so tolerant there. And I say, tolerant is really a condescending word to me.
Right.
We're not tolerant.
Right.
We're respectful. We take pride. And of course, when I went there, it was the issue of HIV/AIDS.
Yeah, right.
And some people didn't even think I should mention the word. I said, well, I've come here to fight against HIV and AIDS,
absolutely.
and that's what it is. So we've had to teach them. But what I tell them is about our
culture here.
As I say, listen to me when I speak, because you will be saying what I'm saying. It's just a matter of time.
Right.
And my goal is, it's inevitable to us that you'll be saying this. It's inconceivable to you.
Right. We
want to shorten the distance between the inevitable and the inconceivable to you, but you will be saying this. And so for a long time, of course, marriage equality. When I became leader in 2002, everybody said, oh, every question, every talk show, do you support gay marriage? Yes, because I don't believe in discrimination. I'm respectful of people. And that was how they were going to label me. They were tattooing me that I supported, that there was a leader of the Democrats.
Right.
And they were going to tattoo me to all of them about, and of course they tried to do that. But here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. Isn't it a beautiful thing? And not that long ago in the scheme of things.
Do they get the changing nature of the workplace? You come from somewhere where things are changing, where you have, in Washington, you would imagine that BlackBerry's in great shape by looking at people using them. You know what I mean?
Like
it's in free fall, but not in Washington.
I had one, but I never used it.
Yeah, but they're not using a lot of the technologies. No. They're not using all kinds of things they have Uber now and things like that, but very slow to do so. How do you communicate? And here in San Francisco, I always make a joke that it's assisted living for millennials, like all the different things that you can get. How do you translate that to the rest of the country? Is that something that's hard to do when you're in Washington?
Well, the fact is, for Washington, D.C., nothing is more eloquent to a member of Congress than the voice of his or her own constituents. So the entrepreneurial spirit of what is invented here and what is sold across America is a better messenger to the members of Congress, that the better get with it in terms of it. But it's hard because when I first went there, but working with my colleagues, we would say, you're like in the Stone Age, stone tablets. You've got to get rid of some of this stuff. You must
digitize government.
And it took a while. And then the government would say, well, you can receive information, but you can never respond.
Right.
because that opens up the system, this and that. So, I mean, we had a big fight over the digital signature. You would have thought that that was the most revolutionary thing, and how could they ever possibly pass such a thing? But we fought the fight, and something as simple as that really opened up a lot of commerce on the internet.
Sure.
So I think now things are moving much more rapidly because the world is. Not because Congress took the lead, mind you.
Right.
But
Are you digital? Do you consider yourself digital? I mean, do you have to stay in tune with your
Well, you know what? I'm so disappointed because I dropped my watch and I had to take it in. It's going to take 3 to 5 days.
Apple Watch.
My Apple Watch.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
You're one of the only ones, but you like it. You like it. Why
I
is
love
that?
it. But what was funny is I got it for Christmas, but of course I got it for Christmas to shop for it after Christmas.
Right.
So when we had the State of the Union address with the president, which was like the sometime in January, it was the first time I really had it on because I had just gotten it. And it was telling me things during the speech, but I didn't realize that it did that. I thought it was at my command. I didn't know I was at its command.
Right, yes, you are at technology's command, Nancy.
It would say, my arm would go like this. I mean, I'd look down and say, stand up and walk around for a minute. And
It was ordering you. You can't do that during the
of course,
speech.
the president's speaking, and then a message would come up. Somebody was calling or this or that, but I didn't realize how, because it was brand new. I didn't realize how.
How do you like it?
But what happened was it started going out over Twitter during the speech that I was looking at my watch while the president was speaking, and that was I shouldn't have been doing that.
Right.
Well, the president's had a big old clock right over his head while he's speaking. If I want to know the time, I just do that. But I was just looking down at my watch. So then I had to put out afterward. No, I was
Trying to get my watch
responding to
to
my
shut up.
watch. And then people who had a watch or something like that, okay.
Okay. What else do you use technologically?
Well, I use my iPad and I use the my iPhone, the big one. But I also use a computer, but that seems like ancient, at home and at home.
Right.
But mostly my iPad and my phone.
What about services?
It serves
do you use
me well.
Uber? Do you use Twitter? Do you use Snapchat?
All of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah, but there's some things that I'm waiting to leapfrog over because I know there's another invention.
Such as?
So, I mean, I don't know what it is. That is to say, before I get myself too, like I'm going to go back to the Apple store and see how my Apple Watch and my phone can cooperate better. Well, I'm doing some of that, but I'm not thorough there. So I said, I'll do that, but I know as soon as I do this, there's going to be another
Do you have
thing.
to be super techie as a representative?
No, I mean,
because you do represent other people, but people would imagine you're super techie.
Well, no, I don't know if I'm super techie because I don't know exactly what that measure is. I mean,
well, can you code?
Zoe Lofgren, no. Zoe Lofgren is super techie. So I have the super techies on my staff, and I respect what they do, and my colleagues, some of them are super techie. I'm happy.
Right.
I'm happy. It serves my purpose. I don't know if I could. I don't know what I'd do if I were getting more commands from more.
Well, in the next section, we'll talk about people like Trump who've been really using social media very effectively.
Oh, you mean using social media? Well, that's a different thing. I thought you were talking about my personal behavior.
But it is part of your personal.
No, the social media is it. I mean, that's the people that we want to reach, we have to reach the way they receive communication. And they have made so many, they've turned some traditional communications into stone tablets themselves.
Right.
And I love it because.
Do you tweet yourself? Do you do that yourself?
Yeah, I can.
Yourself. You can, but do you?
I don't have enough time to. I mean, I email all the time.
Right.
No, I text all the time. I text all the time. I write my tweets, but I have somebody else send them out.
Right, right. Interesting. So what would you, when we're thinking about technology, one of the biggest things that's going on right now between the government and Silicon Valley are these issues around Apple encryption. Yeah. Where do you stand?
This is an issue that I've been involved in for a very long time, in the early
Senator
90s.
Feinstein and others.
We're on opposite sides on this issue. I love her dearly, respect her enormously.
She's quite a...
But we're on different sides on this issue, and hopefully we can all come together. That would be the goal. But my standing on intelligence goes back to the early 90s. I have over 20 years on longer than anybody has ever served in Congress on the Intelligence Committee, as a member, as the top Democrat, and as a leader and speaker and leader again ex officio. So I live an intelligence life. And when I went on the committee, privacy and civil liberties were an important priority for me, as was stopping the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, those two. So I have worked this issue a long time, and I believe that since the beginning of our country, we all know that liberty and security were the two values that we had to balance.
Right.
Okay, and so we all know that over time, and even then they had a War of 1812. They really had a domestic threat at the time. So now I have, in my own view, have added a third.
Okay.
Liberty, security, brand name USA. And brand name USA doesn't just mean we want to be able to sell our products abroad, so we have to not encrypt. Brand name USA is if we don't sell our products overseas and be preeminent, we will not be as secure as we need to be.
Okay.
So I think the Apple argument on no backdoor and all of that is the security argument.
Right.
I think we have the security argument, those of us who are saying you can't have a backdoor. Because if we open it up, then who's going to buy our technology?
Right. So how do you square that with sort of the Obama administration? He's sort of shifted his views on this. He's sort of in the somewhere in the middle. I can't quite figure out what his views are.
Well, he has a committee, the commission that was I appointed Herbert Lynn from our area to be on it, which will study the encryption issues and make a report within like about 6 months, and we'll see what that report is.
But you feel that Apple's side is the correct side.
Yes.
So does the Secretary of Defense, which is interesting for strong encryption.
The president, if you're the president of the United States, you have the Justice Department, the FBI. You have to give everybody room. I mean, I'm not speaking for the president.
Right.
He has his own views on the subject, but just as an observer of the presidency, he has to give room there. But from my standpoint, with my experience over time, I feel very confident that if we want to make a security argument, we don't say Justice Department is security, Apple is privacy. Apple is privacy and security.
Right. Have you been pressured by the FBI to change your stance, to be more like we need more? This is terrorism. There's a lot of emotional arguments attached to it. These people killed these people, and if we don't unlock this one iPhone, we're all screwed.
Well, they know. I mean, I've been working with them for a long time, and when I was speaker and the rest, and even as a member of the committee, always had insisted that in legislation we would have the board, the commission, or whatever it is for civil liberties. So whatever they did, they had to comply.
Sure. Where do you imagine it ending up right now?
Well, let me say this. First of all, when this all happened, I think that the Justice Department, yes, they have asked me, brought their story of San Bernardino and this. But I think they would have had more standing on the issue if they had stuck with that. I think I didn't agree with them, but at least from a public perception standpoint. But for at the same time, as they were asking Apple to
unlock it.
Right. They were saying, the district attorney in New York was saying, I have 145 cases. Well, they're not secure. They're not security cases. They're not.
Right. They just want to get these iPhones.
They just wanted to have another means of investigating.
Right.
And I thought that weakened their argument and really made the case for us.
Right.
If this were strictly about terrorism, you would have kept this whole argument under seal, the whole court proceedings under seal, and had some conversation to see what could happen. Probably not much, but nonetheless not to make this like two camps on the subject.
Right.
So, so how will it turn out? I think it has to turn out in favor of privacy and security as one thing rather than dividing it.
Right.
And I'm hopeful that the people that are on the commission that the president appointed will understand that, because the flip side of all of this is to demand decryption. I mean, it's
right. It pulls away. I mean,
you
Apple's made a good argument.
You cannot go down that path.
Right.
You cannot go down. Now let's be smart. Let's be smart. How do we deal with this issue? Keep America preeminent so people are not. And I don't mean this from a commercial standpoint that we want sales. I'm just saying, if we're not the dominant force, somebody else will be.
Right.
And that's not in our national security interest.
Right. And now we're going to talk about the election because it's the best topic going. There's been a lot of social tech involved in this election. I recently, I'm working on a piece calling Donald Trump the first presidential candidate who really knows how to use Twitter. The first one who's really using and abusing it, really. How do you look at this election? Because there's been a lot of social media involved. There's been a lot of sound bites with a Y. When you're looking at this, I remember running into you and you're like, I can't believe this is happening, but it's gotten even worse, kind of.
Well, let me just say, while he may be tech savvy in terms of using Twitter and the social media, everybody's using the social media. We should all use it better.
Yeah, he's good at it.
But let me just say, he wouldn't be considered as good at it if the press did not give him. Bernie Sanders has having a tremendous impact on this election.
Sure.
He had a similar impact on the Democratic Party as Trump did in the Republican Party. The press spent 50, 60, 70 times more time on Donald Trump than they did on Bernie Sanders.
Right. Well, Bernie Sanders is not insulting every single person.
I understand that. But still, the traditional media for ratings, and that's money, have amplified his social media voice because it's ratings, and they say it. They flat out say that. So I think
he is the Republican nominee now, though. It's not as if he's not. You mean getting him here?
What I'm saying is the attention that he received. Now I'm just paying attention to one thing: how he communicates. How he communicates is through crassness and xenophobia, every phobia you can imagine. He's a merchant of fear. But the press has given him so much attention that I think that when people place a value, when he must be here because he Twitters or he must be here because he uses social, no, he must be here because he's ratings. And he's ratings because he says the outrageous. And so what does he have? He has a half of 30% in a country. He has, give them 40. He has half of 40%. So he has 20% of the country.
Well, that's what everyone hopes, correct? But he's sort of beaten the odds in terms of a lot of people.
Well, yes, but you know what? He's not going to be president. He is not, Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
All right, all right.
But he can, and hopefully, and I'm certain it will happen when we have our nominee, whoever she may be.
Right.
She will take this debate to a higher plane, and nobody. But you would never stoop to his level because that's not who we are. But let me make this point about Donald Trump because I think it's important for you to know, also your viewers to know, what the basis of his success is as well. When people complain about Donald Trump talking about Mexicans, talking about Muslims, talking about women and all the rest, that's what we hear every day in the Congress. And not in private, in committee, on the floor, in press conferences. If you put side by side what some of our members have said, important members, chairs of committees and the rest, where they're in power. They have power to make a difference and bring terrible legislation to the floor, which they have done. He's a here today, gone tomorrow candidate for president. They have had power, used it to the detriment of all of the people that we've talked about here. We should do a side-by-side with Donald Trump and them predating Donald Trump.
Right.
So he's a reflection of them, but now all of a sudden they're shocked. Oh, there's gambling here. They're shocked. But the fact is, he is who they are. They created this atmosphere by being fear merchants themselves in terms of people who fear the empowerment of women, the empowerment of minorities.
How do you battle that? How do you battle that? You say not stoop to their level, but it tends to work. I mean,
no, I
using
don't
all these
think
different
so.
megaphones. You don't.
I think that the American people I have confidence in the American people. They know better than that. And this is something that the Republican Party, even while tolerating, and the Speaker of the House said, I don't know, well, just turn around and look at your members and see what they're saying. Why don't you, I don't see you taking them to task.
Right.
But
this is Speaker Ryan.
Yeah, and neither did Speaker Boehner. I mean, they're nice people, and I get along with them fine, all that. But the fact is, they have tolerated
this already.
Horrible statements, some of it even worse than Donald Trump, without even commenting on it.
Sure.
Because you know what? It gets votes in those particular conservative districts.
Why are they doing it now, then? Why are they doing it now?
Doing what?
And just complaining about Donald Trump. Why
because they know that brand Trump is going to be tattooed on their candidates for Congress all over the country, outside of those southern districts and some of the rural districts where this white male, whatever it is, prevails.
White male anger, I think, is
Is
what
it
it is.
anger?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Whatever. White male, whatever it is. I like that better. When you think about, but Sanders, as you said, has also sort of tapped into that rage. It's a kind of rage, it's a lower boil, but it's very similar. And he has also used online fundraising, online communication.
Well, I don't think there's any equivalence between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. No. Bernie Sanders has tapped into the fact that wages have stagnated, the tuition is expensive, the Wall Street anger that people have from 2008, and campaign finance reform. That's what he has tapped into. So where they have something in common is just the economic insecurity. But the economic insecurity is not the secret of success of Donald Trump. It's the merchant of hate and discrimination and anti. And so they have they've tapped into economic insecurity, but they part company right there when Bernie Sanders goes down a path of aspirations of things that he would like to do that may take longer to do than
they're
Hillary
more lofty,
Clinton does.
let's just say, than just build a wall. It's a little more lofty. You want to have everyone go to college than.
Well, no, it's not a little more lofty. It's a completely not sharing of values. They don't share values. Yeah.
Has this election, though, changed things for politicians? When you look at it, it's been a social media election. It's been a noisier election. It's been a zillions of voices going on. Something feels like it's shifted. Do you feel?
Oh, definitely, definitely. But you know what? I take some delight out of the fact that the social media has democratized elections even further.
Right.
People hear things that may or may not be true or vetted or anything like that, but nonetheless, the democratization of communication is good for a democracy. So I'm excited about that. I do think that after all is said and done, the American people, with the shared values about a vision for our country, will reject what the Republicans are proposing, and the Republicans themselves will reject it. I tell my friends in the Republican Party, take back your party. This is the grand old party. This is not who you are and what you've done for our country. Take back your party. So I think they need to get through it and then come up with what they come up with next.
Do you think Hillary Clinton's been a good candidate?
Oh, I think she's been a great candidate. I think Bernie Sanders has been a great candidate. I think they both have. They, you are who you are, and the sincerity of who you are is what matters. So you can't say, why isn't Hillary Bernie and why isn't Bernie Hillary? They are who they are, and that authenticity is what is important. Hillary has lived a life. She has made her contributions in government and two branches of government. And she will be one of the best prepared people to ever enter the Oval Office when she does so as the first woman speaker.
All right, you're saying you're taking it back. Last question: should tech people be more politically involved? They don't tend to be. They're slow on the uptake in terms of donations. They had embraced President Obama quite a bit.
Yes.
They're not embracing Hillary quite as much as they did. Do you think they need to be more involved?
Well, I think that it's up to Hillary Clinton to reach out to, for the administration to reach out to. It's not just does the tech community come forward, and Barack Obama did reach out. But I do think that there are public policy issues that need to be determined, knowing the ramifications to the private sector. There's a viva the private sector. So whether it's patent, intellectual reform, encryption, immigration, education, all of the tax policies that relate to incentives to invest and hold. They're important decisions that are made every day that affect the community, so they should be involved. But the opportunity the tech community has given to all of us to communicate more directly. We have town meetings where we have thousands and thousands of people.
Would you like to vote online? Would you think someday we'll be voting online?
Well, somebody told me yesterday that she is voting overseas, a Democrat abroad, and she's voting online. So that's only for those people, I guess, and I think we'll get to that place. And the integrity of the ballot is really the most important thing. I think, the most logical thing. Yes, we should vote online. Make it as easy as possible.
Have an app and just vote. Have an app and just vote? Do you ever see a day like that? Or
I don't know an app, but maybe a place that that you can go that is convenient, that you might be going to anyway, the grocery store, the whatever. But, and yeah, why not an app? I mean, we do so many things by app. But it's the integrity of it. And what happened when, even with some of the voting in Ohio a couple of elections ago, the vendor said, this voting material is proprietary, I own it.
right.
And so we couldn't check for fraud or anything else in the vote, or to even confirm the numbers. So those kinds of things have to be worked through. I thought it would be easier.
Yeah.
I thought we'd be there by now.
Yeah, we're not.
But it's going to be a glorious thing when we do, because, again, reduce the role of money, increase the impact of the individual, and that will honor the vows of our founders.
Last question. What would you like tech to invent for you? Would you want a self-driving car? You're obviously going to have to be involved in regulation around these.
Oh, we'll have self-driving cars. What we have to see, here's another place. What we're trying to do is we're writing a transportation bills and those kinds of bills, is to say, don't use as your bill the one you did before and incrementally talk about it. Think in a completely different way. You can't be thinking about highways without thinking of driverless cars and how those highways are engineered. You've got to make investments in the driverless.
Not thinking of those things, are they?
Well,
they're not thinking.
Well,
of those
they haven't been, but I think we're trying to get them closer to that place because, again, it is the future, and they can either be the status quo agents that they always have been, or they can be part of the solution. And
I am not confident the government will be up to speed on what's happening in driverless cars going forward.
Well, what we saw today at Autodesk, which was so fascinating, is how interactive engineers can be with computers to have discoveries and inventions that are real progress.
So what would you like to see invented? I ask everybody this. What would you like tech to invent for you? Nancy Pelosi, would you like to be a hologram all the time? What would you like?
Well, let me see. I have an array of things. What I always used to say up in intelligence is, if we don't have something, task for it. The community can do it. They can do it. So maybe what they can do is we can task for a list of things that the tech community
what would you
consider imminent.
Is there any you would
Well,
like?
I come back to being a mom. So I'm a mom, and I know you like your Amazon Echo, whatever.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I'm just afraid that one day it might not obey you and may say, I'm not going to turn
That's,
down.
No, I know. It's going to do whatever it wants. It's going to lock the doors. That's
Lock
my
the
plan.
doors.
Yeah.
But I think anything that, again, speaking not as an elected official or anything, speaking as a mom and a family member, so it's not just moms, but family members, that anything that gives more time back to family to be together,
Right.
and to
Yeah, that's not going to happen, Nancy. Sorry.
well, it's already happening for
think?
you, right?
Yeah.
In your
Kind of.
Amazon
I just
Echo.
think I use, yes, but it's still, I am now involved with my Amazon Echo now. I have a great relationship. I'm very pleased.
Well, when it comes to saving time, protecting your home, spending.
You're right.
I think that there's more opportunity. I've been visiting tech. How many times have I visited Microsoft? Others around here all the time.
Give us our time
Great
back.
things. Just whatever it is that makes time. And one of them relates to transportation, to energy, to all of that.
Right.
And again, the best thing we can do for our children, I suppose, in a public policy way, is to hand them a planet that is wholesome, that honors our responsibility to the next generation, and anything the tech community can do to contribute to that. Well, in our meeting this morning, Tom Steyer, who was there, said IT is the answer to almost every challenge, whether it's education, entrepreneurship, protecting the environment, the list goes on.
Yeah.
IT is the answer.
All right. On that happy note, we will end our interview with Nancy
Thank you.
Pelosi.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
so much, Representative Pelosi, for
Thank
being
you.
here. And I'm going to hold you to the election. It'll be an
That's
election
right.
bet. We'll see. I'm a little
That's
worried,
right.
but we'll see.
We're just-
We'll see what'll happen.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.